So, you bought a camera. You have absolutely no idea how to use it. You thought you knew how to use it, but you have zero idea what shutter speed, what ISO, and what aperture is. So, in this video today, we are going to be running through those three main settings and how to use them in different scenarios. Stick around to the end of the video, and I hope you guys do enjoy and learn something new out of this video. So let's go through the main settings on how to use your camera.
First thing you want to do is switch your camera to manual mode, which is the M either on the top left of your camera, and that will let you adjust each individual setting. So you've got your shutter speed, your f-stop, and your ISO, all manually to adjust it accordingly to each scenario. First thing we're going to run through is our shutter speed. So as you can see right now, it's 250 of a shutter speed. So that is actually really quick. If you are looking to get a really silky smooth sort of water, putting your shutter speed to around a second or even longer will give you that silky smooth water and that misty sort of look. So the shutter speed is basically the speed of the shutter. So it's at 1/250th of a second. So that shutter is going to be open 1/250th of a second, which is really quick. So the longer your shutter speed, the more motion and blur that you get in the image, which is why when you're doing a long exposure shot, you need a tripod to keep all of the non-moving objects still in the one spot, which is why you need a tripod. If you're looking to capture a really fast motion, so say like a speed car or a boat, you're gonna have to put your shutter speed up to, I like to keep it around over 1/1000th of a second. So that's usually what I like to keep at the lowest when I'm shooting a fast car, a speedboat, a aeroplane, whatever it may be. I always keep it at minimum of 1/1000th of a second, and according to the scenario, I will change the aperture and the ISO according to the lighting environment that I'm in. F-stop, that is the amount of light going through the lens. So the higher the aperture is the less amount of light getting into your camera. So that's where you either need to bring down your shutter speed to compensate for the high f-stop, or you can play around with your ISO, which is basically fake light. So the aperture is the depth of field as well as the amount of light getting into your camera. The higher your f-stop, the more that's going to be in focus from front to back, depending on your composition. So if you're on f2.8 and you're really close to a subject, the whole background of that subject should be blurred out. That's where you get into the f1.8 lenses, and that means the background is going to be really blurred if you open your aperture up to 1.8. So if you're looking to get the whole scene of a landscape in focus, putting your f-stop up to around f12 to f16, depending on the type of lens that you have, that will give you the maximum sharpness. So, shutter speed is the speed your shutter is running at. The f-stop is your depth of field, so your sharpness from front to back. And your ISO is what we're going to be running through now. Your ISO is basically fake light. So say you are shooting at a nightclub and you want your f-stop to be 2.8 because that's the fastest aperture your lens goes. And you don't want to be shooting around 1 second at a nightclub because everyone's going to be blurred. So that's where you bring in your ISO, which you can see it's at 200 at the moment. So because it is fake light, the more higher your ISO will be, the more grain will be introduced into the final image. I'll show you examples up on screen of ISO 100 and ISO 1600. You can definitely see a difference in the grain. So just be wary, the higher your ISO is, the more grainy your photo will be. But usually with most cameras, it is quite fine to even go up to the 3200 mark, depending on the type of camera you have. So the shutter speed is the speed that your shutter is opening and closing. Your aperture is the depth of field, whether you want your subject to be out of focus or in focus, and depending on the type of look that you want to get in your photo. ISO is basically fake light. What you usually do is when you have a really harsh dynamic range that you're trying to work in and you want to bring up your shutter speed, but you don't want to go too slow that the motion is all blurred at a nightclub or at a car race or whatever it may be. So that's where you bring in the ISO, and that's where your grain is introduced. You want to keep that at the lowest it can go.
So those are the three main settings that you need to learn, but that basically makes up a photo. So your shutter speed, your ISO, and your aperture. I hope those do make a little bit of sense when going out and actually taking photos. Obviously, in every single scenario, it's going to be different. So just work around your shutter speed, your aperture, and your ISO to determine how much light you want to get in and the sort of look that you want to get. So I hope you guys did learn something new. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. Let me know how you went, and let me know if you want me to go into a little bit more detail on any of the settings that I stated before. One setting that I did leave out was the white balance, so we'll touch base on that on another video. Until then, I hope you guys do have a great rest of your day, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. See you later.